The common minerals that will be checked would be sodium, potassium, chloride, phosphorus, all this. But the special ones, like you want to check the magnesium content because low magnesium is one of the commonly undiagnosed reasons for hypertension.
Before we dive in, may I kindly ask you to subscribe to the podcast? Your support helps me to bring in inspiring guests and share these episodes with you completely free. What if you're not tired? You're just depleted. What if it's not burnout, but biology? What if the missing piece in your wellness puzzle isn't another mindset hack, but magnesium? Welcome to Wellness Curated. I'm your host, Anshu Bahanda, and we're doing this very special series on ancient wisdom for modern living. And the season within it is called Cultivating Inner Peace. Now, when you talk about inner peace, our brain automatically goes to the likes of meditation or mindfulness or something to do with the mind. But what if the real roadblock is something more fundamental than that? What if peace isn't just a state of mind? It's a state of minerals. Today, we're going to dive into mineral therapy. It's an ancient meets modern approach to healing, and it looks at physical, emotional, and energetic well-being. Because sometimes fatigue and anxiety and lack of sleep, these are not mindset issues, or even if they are, they can be sorted out through mineral deficiencies. Joining me today is Dr. Marian Alonzo. She's the medical director at The Farm. The Farm is a globally celebrated wellness resort based in the Philippines. And Dr. Alonzo blends conventional science with traditional wisdom. Welcome to the chat, Dr. Alonzo, and thank you for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you for inviting us over there.
I'm going to jump right in and ask you, what if the likes of your fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, what if they aren't emotional problems? What if they're mineral deficiencies and people haven't tested for them? Do you find that often?
Yeah. So I have my background. I have a background in behavioral biochemistry. So we first, and all doctors, we first look at the organic or the biological reasons, possible biological reasons, before even considering the psycho-emotional imbalances.
I see. So are you saying to me that this is something that every doctor should look at before medicating people? Should every doctor be looking at mineral deficiencies?
So doctors would normally order complete blood count, electrolytes, chemical profiles before even medicating. So you will see some deficiencies already. However, there are other targeted minerals, like for example, diabetes. It could be a chromium deficiency, but because of the prevalence of diabetes, doctors would just prescribe sugar-lowering drugs without checking for chromium. The common minerals that will be checked would be sodium, potassium, chloride, phosphorus, all this. But the special ones, like sometimes magnesium. So for hypertension, magnesium, you want to check the magnesium content because low magnesium is one of the commonly undiagnosed reasons for hypertension.
So that's what I want to ask you about magnesium, because I take magnesium sometimes when I feel, I do my bloods once every 6 months. But I've helped a lot of people who couldn't sleep by saying, try magnesium and it could help you. And they said, oh my God, it was magical. So talk to me about magnesium, because one, I know it helps with sleep, of course. You're saying it helps with hypertension. And is it true that it can even, if you're really low in magnesium, you could even be having panic attacks?
So the thing about magnesium is it's a muscle relaxant. So if you're feeling tensed inside and you lack magnesium, then the mechanism of pacifying you is not there. The other thing about magnesium is that it's a light bearer. So People who have panic attack, it's as if there's no hope or whatever they felt at that moment. They're not so powerful about it. But if there's this light within them in the form of magnesium, it would have not been as bad as the panic attack that they've been experiencing.
So what do you mean it's a light bearer? Explain that to me.
There are substances that, like for example, iron. Iron is something that you need to ground you. So people who have low iron, if they stand up immediately, they feel dizzy because they need that grounding quality. Zinc, for example, has this balancing quality, and therefore zinc has a lot of properties. If you take zinc for immune system, and if your immune system is already okay, zinc would be good for the eyes because it has this balancing quality. So now magnesium, this is quite technical, but if you go into the chemistry of biochemistry of things, it holds light. So think of a crystal. You know how a crystal is like a stone, but what makes it different? The molecules. So for example, diamond. So diamond is white and it reflects light and holds light. It's made up of carbon. So and you another carbon, say graphite from, the pencil, the black ink of the pencil. So that's also carbon. But exposed under extreme pressure and over a period of time, the molecules of the carbon start rearranging themselves in such a beautiful lattice that it becomes crystalline. And then it can hold light. And so it's the configuration of the molecules as well.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that about magnesium. So that's fascinating. But I'm going to take you back to something you said in conversation, just to put it into context for our listeners. You said that when you go to a doctor for any reason, you should first go through all the minerals and the electrolytes, and you should have all those tests done. In the Western countries, that's not the case. I know I grew up in India, so I know in India there's a lot more blood tests that are done. But in the Western countries, very often you're just given that medication. You're not made to do a blood test. So I just want to hear your views on that.
First, the word should. So that was something, maybe it's not should, it's just that when we were medical students, we were asked to get all the tests done. And why? It's because we did not know any better. We were just students and young doctors. So we didn't have the experience yet. But over time, when you've encountered the same cases over and over, somehow you can let go of some of the tests because you have an idea, what could it be? And then you narrow down. So that's one. The other reason why doctors would not ask for more tests is because some patients do not have resources. So
yes,
an intelligent guess then. The money that will be used for diagnostics will have to be diverted to treatment and through an intelligent guess.
Yes, I guess that's the reason. Let's again go back to basics before I carry on with more questioning about this. So you're saying if you can, try and get blood tests done. So it probably makes sense to get blood tests done once a year, right? Anyway, to find out the state of your health. What would you ask people to look at? Minerals, vitamins, what else?
I'll complicate it a bit because it's not just blood tests. There's a difference between what's in the blood and what's actually stored or absorbed in the body. So the tests, the kind of test will depend on the specific symptom, the specific clinical history of the patient. That's why doctors, we take time to look at the history, even diet, because if you're talking about mineral deficiency, the diet is a very much component necessary to consider. So the tests are just confirming what you are already suspecting. 90% of the information will still come from a thorough history and physical examination.
The first thing, I guess, is the history, and then you ask for tests. For someone who can afford it, what tests would you recommend in general people should get? Is there a balanced list you could give us that we can tell people that'll help them?
If you have access to, because there's what you call the Oligoscan. So it's a screening test. So when we say screening test, one test and so many information you can get from there. The minerals, the vitamins, the heavy metals in just one test.
Okay. It's called the Oligoscan, is it?
Yeah. So it's a
Oligo?
OLIGO and then scan. So it's
Wonderful.
a screening test and it uses light signatures. So there are certain minerals or elements have light signatures. And then it's actually a Nobel Prize winning Indian technology.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's minerals, vitamins, and heavy metals. Heavy metals, I guess, are toxins. Is that right?
Yes, in a way, yeah. There are allowable amounts because there's also value in having these heavy metals. I know it sounds controversial, but for example, someone who's not grounded, you know the idea of grounding, right? When you're connected to the earth. And there are people who live in their heads and they're not
Mm-hmm.
grounded. So the body will hoard heavy metals or other ways by which you become grounded. So heavy metal, tendency for smoking. So not everyone who smokes is addicted. It's just that sometimes they need that way to bring them down because they're in their heads all the time.
I want you to clarify before we carry on the difference between vitamins and minerals for people listening.
Vita means life. So it's actually, vitamin A for the eyes, vitamin E for the skin. So these are nutrients for the body. The minerals are actually solid version of elements or compounds that support. So vitamin deficiency, for example, you have a deficiency in vitamin D. And
Mm-hmm.
you're taking vitamin D, but how come the vitamin D is not going up? Because you need what you call cofactors. And minerals act like that. It's like a transporter, so the vitamins can go to where they are needed to go. And there are some gates in the body that would require keys. So
Mm-hmm.
minerals act like that. The thing about vitamins also is you have natural from food, right? So these are easily absorbable by the body because the body recognizes this. But sometimes you get this in the form of supplements. And because it's an analog, it's not the real thing. Sometimes the body would reject that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So there are factors why some people would be taking something, but then it's not going up because there are other factors to consider. Quite complicated, but also very interesting if you really go into it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very interesting. And like very often you have people saying, I'm taking one supplement that helps me with everything. I'd love to hear your views, but mineral therapy needs to be more targeted because you might be taking a lot of extra supplements, correct? If you're just taking one which has all the minerals.
Well, here at the farm, and even before I joined the farm, it's really as much as possible get your nutrients from naturally, consciously produced fruits and vegetables. For example, you have brown rice in there. You also have B complex. You have the iron, the magnesium, manganese, copper, whatever is needed by the body. And then what the body needs, it takes on. What it doesn't need, the molecules, if it's coming from natural substances, there's a term called biological transmutation. So for example, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have iron, but you eat green leafy vegetables and there's iron there. It now shifts to other substances.
Mm-hmm.
Transforms. So chemically produced substances don't have that biological transmutation quality.
Yes, and what I found in the Western world a lot, when you go to a doctor, you're given medication for something. Because the whole process of mineral therapy or supplement therapy takes longer. So there's a lot of people being treated by medication that could be sorted out through supplements and through
Yes.
minerals. I'd love
So
to hear your views on that.
I would recommend supplementation if there's a tendency for depletion or if there's a documented depletion already, then you can have supplements. If it's just a tendency, then you take supplements only for this period of time. And the reason is because you want your body to do its job. And if you take supplements all the time without resting, then the body realizes, oh, I don't have to use this quality anymore. I don't have to do this work anymore. And that could be problematic later on in life.
Okay. How do people recognize that they're in a state of depletion? Because a lot of people miss it. Are there certain signs that they need to look out for?
So the first thing is, the body will send out subtle signs. Maybe you feel tired. Maybe you feel like you cannot articulate it, but you feel like you're not yourself. So these are early signs, very subtle signs. And if you sit down and you listen, then the body realizes, oh, now you're listening. It can self-regulate at that point. But if you're continuing to stay stimulated outside and not really listening to your body, it will bring up the sensation into maybe shaking, or what's this? Mini tics or nerve tingling sensation. So still tolerable, you can still ignore it, but you cannot deny that it's there. So it goes up. And then if you still ignore that, it goes up again until the body will need to throw a temper tantrum to get your attention. By that, it's already depletion. And
Right.
you can already document that in the laboratory. But the initial signs that I mentioned, these are not yet documented in the labs. So we go back to you listen to your body, because that's a very important quality before even going out there, because that's the thing. Modern people, you're so stimulated by the outside environment, including screens, that you don't listen to your body anymore.
So basically, you're saying slow down, listen to your body. Is there anything irregular about what you're feeling?
Even the moods, mood swings could also be a form of imbalance. You don't act that way normally, but suddenly you snap, and that's the body telling you, I don't have enough. Can you take care of me? Something.
Lovely. Now, are there life-threatening mineral deficiencies?
Yes, but this is already the extreme. So remember, you need only trace amounts of minerals for the body to be functional. So you have been ignoring your body for so long to actually go into life-threatening case, or maybe not long, but very intense. So for example, there's this, if you have this flashing light, some people, if they don't have enough minerals, that flashing light could cause problems, including seizures.
And what about everyday life? Things like running around, like you said, we don't stop. There's caffeine, there's everyday stresses, there's emotional trauma. How do all these things affect our mineral stores?
So the thing is, there's what they call normal health and optimal health. We want to be in the optimal. So optimal is when you reach a certain age, you don't have memory problems, you don't have muscle problems, you don't have mobility problems. That's optimal health. And that's the idea, is to be in that state as we grow old. Now, it's normal for people to have to take coffee just to keep them awake, to get them through the day. So the more you're dependent on outside substances, the more the body is using reserve energy. And this reserve energy usually is meant for the future. And you're using it. So a lot of old age illnesses could have been prevented if we have been listening to our body when we were younger.
What is required for optimal health?
If you have a family history of acid problems or hypertension, then you want to check your magnesium. If you have a family history of diabetes, or you have a tendency for high blood sugar, you need to check your chromium. If you have immune system problems or challenges, you want to make sure you have zinc.
Zinc, yes.
If you have tendency for inflammation in any part of your body, it's vitamin D plus K2. Those with mood swings or family history of bipolar tendencies, lithium. And then you go to your nutritionist, or now you can go online. What are foods that are rich in zinc, lithium, magnesium, potassium?
So that's the minerals. So that takes care of that. In terms of vitamins, would you say to people that take a multivitamin every day, but your belief is eat it through your food, right?
Yeah. So, but in terms of minerals, for example, if you have this fatigue, then you want your vitamin B complex. But if you're the type who has ringing of ears, the
Tinnitus, yes.
and then you have this tendency to double check if you lock the door or not. So the obsessive compulsive tendencies.
Yes.
You want vitamin B, but without the B12. B12 heightens the tinnitus as well as the OCD tendencies.
A lot of people do things like prescribe forest walking for increasing the mineral and vitamin content of your body. Do those kind of things, do engaging with nature help?
Definitely. And it's not only the vitamins, minerals, it's also the microbiome, the probiotics, which is also one of the things that you want to include in your supplementation should you want to supplement. So you have these ancient plants that release certain, there's an interaction between plants and human being. It's not just the oxygen, carbon dioxide thing. It's also the quality of the soil. So there are so many things that you're getting. Even the kind of moisture that your skin is getting from forest bathing is different from moisturizing your skin. So there's also, how it is in the city, when you get water, it's through tap. And that's a very angular faucet, pipes. But when you look at nature, water is meandering.
Flows.
Yeah. So there's what you call enlivened water and dead water. So someone who lives in the city, I'll ask them to, if this is your water bottle, you just, swirl it so you have that vortex, or you use a spoon to sort of create that circular movement because that enlivens or activates your water. For example, I remember there was a time I had a cancer patient, so I needed to purify the body, and I was running out of time. And so I did some research and it said glacier water. So it's still water, but, thawed from the glacier. Very good in purifying the body. And I'm just lucky that the patient has the money, so we access that. Before the farm, I used to work for a medical research company. We measure so many things, including hair, and lung became popular. And so I could see the difference that indeed, ordinary hydration, you have what they call structured water. So certain structure to it that makes it a better dissolver than ordinary water. But glacier water is of another level. And you realize it's not just the biologic, the structure, chemical structure, H2O, oxygen, and then two hydrogen molecules. It's not just the angle of the molecule, but also the memory of the time that went with it. So there's like wisdom.
Oh, that's wonderful. And did that glacier water help your patient?
Definitely.
You talked about minerals, you talked about vitamins. For optimal health, we're now talking about optimal. You talked about hydration and how sort of the right kind of hydration for your body. You talked about food. What else do we need for optimal health?
Sleep.
Exercise and sleep.
And then when you say exercise, it's more of mindful movement. So it's not just, I need to do this movement, and then it's more mechanical, but something that gives you joy. For example, if there's the social component to the exercise, it's more fun to go to that exercise. And then you realize it's not just the feel-good hormones of physical work, that's endorphins, but you also have serotonin, that's the sharing hormone. You've accomplished something because you've exercised, that's the dopamine. Yeah. And then the bonding, so there's the oxytocin, which are components for blissful living.
Wonderful. And the last one you said was sleep.
Sleep. Yeah.
So that's very important. And again, here, this is where minerals also come in, because if you have less magnesium, you're not sleeping properly, which is what is happening to a lot of people all over the world, where there's major sleeping issues.
But something to do also with the blue light of the screen. So just as experiment. So it was something that I read, and it's not yet really studied. But if you read something and it seems logical, I suggest this to our patients, and then they give me feedback. So there are many ways by which you validate. So one is your personal experience, the experience of those who are desperate and want to try something else. And then the mainstream, which is randomized controlled trial, but sometimes it takes so long, and they need answers right now, and they are the ones who are willing to try. Okay, so let's see, 1 hour of not anymore doing blue screen or screen time. And then they realize, yeah, sleep is better. Okay, so that set of patients, the light is very important. For others, not much of an effect because there's an underlying maybe mineral deficiency.
And there's certain things like migraine, insomnia, PMS, which are known to be sorted out through mineral therapy. Would you like to talk to me about that?
Well, if you're talking about mineral, it's magnesium. So again, it's a muscle relaxant. So there's that component. But and then there are studies already that mention that. So say, for example, PMS. So biologically, what's happening there is the body prepares to have a baby, because that's what it is. Before menstruation, the body would produce all these blood vessels, and then there's no fertilization that happens. So all these blood vessels would need to be shed out. So there's like a disconnect between the biological need to have a baby, and then this idea of not having a baby. So even if it's not conscious, you don't want to have a baby, but biologically you're
Your
designed.
body is getting ready. Absolutely. Yes.
So before the menstruation, right, is this, the body already knows that there's no baby that was formed. All those hard work for what? Yeah, because biologically you're supposed to bear a child, right? So that's where the angst is coming from. So same thing with, for example, menopause. So there's this hot flush, and it's really the body creating so much heat to neutralize hardening tendencies. So if you can see that these symptoms are not really just inconvenience, but ways by which the body is trying to communicate with you, then it shouldn't be much of a problem. So we go back to all these things you've mentioned: insomnia, PMS, and migraine. It's all related to you not listening to your body. And when your body is being listened to, it starts to harden. It starts to gear up to defend itself because you're not doing the job. When you take magnesium, it's a muscle relaxant. The body can relax because it realizes it's not in danger.
Okay. And you said for migraines also, because I know people who've tried everything for migraines. You said magnesium also helps with migraines?
No, I was talking about insomnia. So that's insomnia. Now, for migraine, there's always the digestive component to it. So notice, people who have migraine, they must have eaten something that they know they're not okay with, and maybe they went to a restaurant and they didn't have a choice, then they have migraine. So the digestive component, there's the light component, and you see how this part of our body is the one that. So the thing about migraine is there's the ankle. So there's a point in your body just below the ankle. I'm gonna show you. Sorry.
Okay.
This point. So ankle,
Okay.
and just below that,
Right.
if you have migraine, you have what you call aura of migraine. So before the actual headache is the sensation that you're about to have a migraine. You press on that point because it's known as the morphine point of the body.
Okay.
So pain is trapped overactivity in a small space. So if you press on that point, you're enlarging the space. So the flow is including the feet. So there's also what you call as above, so below. If this is overactive, you need to neutralize that by doing self foot massage. So you do that, the less frequent the migraine will be.
Interesting. Tell me, if we gave people a 30-day, let's get you to optimal health. Now, we can't, not everyone's come to us and asked us to look at them individually. But if we just said, this is something we're going to tell you to do over 30 days to transform your health, is that possible? Someone who's averagely healthy?
There's always the individuality, but in general, if you have what I've already mentioned, you want zinc so zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, you would also want because it's something that the human body cannot produce. Animals can produce vitamin C, but not human beings. Then you also have to have your omega-3s. Flaxseed if you're vegetarian, or fish oil if you're non-vegetarian.
Right.
Probiotics you would want.
Right.
If acid tendencies.
Right.
If you have a tendency for diabetes, you want chromium. If you have a tendency for hypertension, you want magnesium. But more than the oral, so I've already said whole foods, right? There's
Yes, you said that.
Dermal magnesium, where Epsom salt, which you get from.
Yes.
So you can have a Epsom salt bath, and you just
lie in it. Yes.
Or you can also have in spray bottles. Just dissolve the magnesium, shake, and then you can spray where there are pains. So if it's a muscle, it will relax that muscle.
Now, I want to ask you about one resin that's mentioned in a lot of the Ayurvedic texts, which is Shilajit. People call it the destroyer of weakness. They say it contains 80% of the minerals in our body. A lot of people are talking about Himalayan Shilajit these days. It seems to be some sort of a trend. A lot of people are consuming it. Can you talk to me about it and tell me, does it help with healing and with inner balance?
The answer to that is see for yourself, know for yourself. Number one, if you try it and it helps you, maybe because you have certain deficiencies. I also want to highlight it's an ancient thing. So the microbiome, ancient memory that went into that substance. So it's a black substance, right?
It's like a black resin, right?
Yeah. So it's a refined version of multivitamins. So it has other factors, microbiome, etc. So I would want to try it. If I have access to it and I have a patient who needs it, I will just, you try, let's try for 1 week, 2 weeks, and let's see. And usually, just like when I mentioned zeolite and this glacier, there's even one, you've heard of the Quinton liquid. So it's again ancient liquid from, I ordered it from Spain, and I had a patient who really needed it. In less than 2 days, we're done. So this Shilajit, it's of another category. They're up there with the, certain Panax noto ginseng. If I have a patient with stroke, then I will need that high quality Panax noto ginseng. So it's in that category. It offers more than just the physical substances.
Interesting. Okay. And tell me, are there any minerals or mineral therapy, any ancient mineral therapy that we've lost touch with today, which you will recommend to people to look into, to go back to, which will help cultivate inner peace?
Some people would access this mud from, there are certain muds, right?
Certain muds from different parts of the world. Yes.
And you want variety, because just like forest bathing, you would benefit from a certain set of ancient cedar trees from another place. You'd get something from there also. So again, it's not just the physical components, but the ancient healing memory it contains.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alonzo. That was an amazing chat. We started by talking about minerals, but I think we've expanded to trying to help people in every aspect of their life. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the wisdom you've offered. And thank you for the time you took to be with us today.
Thank you also. I would like to end with we're physical beings, but we're also spiritual beings. And so sometimes illnesses would come because we need to listen to the message. So when we decode that message, you realize if you support the illness and not suppress it, there are certain capacities that the patients will develop. And it's a capacity that's meant to, be a bigger person, a better contribution to the world.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for all your help. That was an incredible chat. Thank you. Always a pleasure to talk to you. If you're feeling tired or you're feeling anxious, or you're not being able to sleep, it may not be mindset, it might be the minerals. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Dr. Alonzo, also for highlighting to us that it's not just one thing in isolation. It's not just the mindset or just your physical body. It's your body, your mind, your spirit. They all contribute to your well-being. You have to look at yourself as a package of everything. And that's when you'll get to optimal health. If this episode gave you that aha moment, if you had something where you felt, oh, I know someone who has migraine, maybe this episode will help. Or I know someone who can't sleep. Please send this episode to them. The reason we do this is to reach you all, to help you, to give you those hidden gems which are not available openly. But we all have access to the things we talk about in these episodes. Thank you for being here with us today. This was your host, Anshu Bahanda, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.